Is you okay?
You know, I will say that a lot of people came out to the mocap too, so it's not fair to say just artists.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. See, look, Britt's standing up for everybody else.
Thanks, Britt.
Awesome.
Thanks, Britt.
Yeah. They don't have a 1 to 5 like you do. Yeah. To our friends, our alumni friends and others, hello. Hope you're well. So I'd like to introduce to you Matt Laurence. Matt is an alumnus from the second cohort, and he currently works in California just south of San Francisco in Burlingame, and he works for a company called iWin on Jewel Quest. And so he's learned a great deal about mobile. Earlier in his career, Matt kicked off his career working with Ben at 368 here in town for a number of years with a lot of other clients and Rick and so forth. And so he's had an interesting career already thus far in his still a young career. And so he's going to talk to you guys about mobile, and it's a pleasure to have him. I know that he's a good speaker because I still remember his capstone pitch that he delivered, which was opera slinger, including a pitch where he had this disembodied voice that was a part of the pitch, and even threw himself against a wall. Yes, I said that. He threw himself against a wall in his passion to be entertaining in his presentation. So I don't know if you're going to throw yourself against the wall today.
I promise no singing.
No singing? Okay.
Wall throwing.
That's probably a good thing. Okay. So please welcome Matt Laurence.
Rick, do you still show that video?
Occasionally, yeah.
Oh, God.
And I tell people when I show that video that you actually sang before Congress.
I did.
Really?
Yeah. The Rayburn House Office building.
So that was probably
No, it was really awful, but yeah, Congress didn't seem to care, so this was World Copyright Day. Anyway, hello, thank you very much for the introduction, Ron. And it's great to be back. It's awesome here. So Ron went over some of this already, so I'll play it through real quickly. I started with FIEA. FIEA was awesome. You guys are really lucky to be here. This place rocks. And then, as Ron mentioned, I went to 368. Ron didn't mention is that after 368, I went to CrowdStar, which is a mobile gaming studio in Burlingame, where I was their game economy designer. And that was full-on mobile games and economies and presentations and all sorts of fun stuff. And from there, I went on to be lead game designer at iWin, which is actually in downtown San Francisco. So long commute, but it's worth it. And something at this point you all might be wondering is, why am I here? Didn't you just go through this with Seth? Didn't he just talk about mobile game design? But what do I really have to give you guys that he didn't? So maybe you're here because, well, you're board students and this is what you have to do. Maybe you're here because you want to have a nice hour to make sweet, sweet love to your computer screens. Maybe you're here because you hate mobile games and really want to burn down Apple and want me to validate basically all the nasty stereotypes you have in your heads about them. And maybe you're here because, well, you know what mobile games have been doing for the industry and just how much money is there for you. And the thing is that Seth's presentation was awesome for me because I was a little worried at first when I saw it, because like, oh, great, another mobile thing. But I was even more worried when I first started putting this presentation together because this is not just another platform. This is an entirely different industry. It's huge. I could do an entire course on this thing. Believe me when I say that, like, it's overwhelming amount of stuff. So Seth's thing was great because he covered all the initial design stuff. And let me tell you, design is just the beginning. So if you guys want to go high level, we can. And I think it's been really useful for you guys because in my role, I'm at basically the top tier decision-making thing for iWin when it comes to their mobile games. And so I can talk about all sorts of really awesome stuff when it comes to basically building, creating, and pushing out and marketing a mobile product, and especially designing economies. So this isn't going to be like, oh, the screen has cool tilt stuff, which is good to know, but this is more like, think about what the metrics can do for you. And of course, there's some design stuff too. And the reason all this stuff is important to you guys is because this sucker here makes all this delicious riches and potential accessible to you guys. And so a lot of what I'm going to go through here today is for you. So let's talk about mobile. And first, let's talk about why it's so damn different. And this is a pretty accurate representation of basically what it's going to be like inside your head when you try to start working on mobile games. So take everything you know about PC and console stuff and then start tearing it to shreds. For instance, your session length. Take a game like GTA 5. Minimum, you're probably going to play that for about half an hour or so. At most, maybe like an hour, maybe 5 hours. With mobile, cut those things down to 1 to 5 minutes, maybe in 30-second sessions. That's crazy. Think about that from a design perspective. You also have this is kind of like your player base too. Your players are very jaded because they have essentially an all-you-can-eat buffet of awesome things out there, and they owe you nothing. Especially since most of your games are probably going to be free because that's, well, honestly, where a lot of the hits and money come from. So that's a reality of the industry, and it also means that your players can basically download your app quickly, look at it, give that 30-second session length, and say, eh, and move on. This is a cool part, though, because it's all digital. So Pitch Jumper is right up there alongside EA's best games because it is a digital marketplace, and you can instantly get your things out there. Well, not instantly, Apple has a say in it. And it's incredible how quickly that stuff moves. Same thing for acquisition. Again, digital. No one's ever going to walk to a store to get this. They're going to hear about this from a friend and download it in 30 seconds. Marketing is crazy too, and the reason I'm bringing it up to you guys is because this is a definite consideration that you'll have to deal with, and you can deal with without having this huge, awesome marketing department. This is really cool. And you have 3 basic options to market your game. It has to be great. And that's something that you guys are going to learn through FIEA in general, and I won't touch on that too heavily. It has to be viral, which is a catch-all for like social, or it like ties, but brings in players, or it just has a lot of good word of mouth. Or you pour money into it like crazy. And I do mean crazy. The amount of money marketing spend goes is ridiculous. This is not really an option for you guys, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because it actually impacts the whole industry. And when I say crazy, you'll see what I mean. And finally, there's support. Your game is a living, breathing product, much like this horrible monstrosity, and it means that you constantly have to keep building things into it. If your game's a success, your game was not done when it was shipped. Your game was like 50% done, and like it'll be 60% done in a month. And they add another set of features, and another set, another set. And you need to do that because your player base is going to dwindle away into nothing when the next big game comes along to catch their attention. So if you're wondered why they keep releasing more Dragons and Dragon Veil, it's just not for their own health or for your funds, because it's to bring people back. All right, so I mentioned design. Let's start with the high-level design things you have to deal with the platform. In this case, the nasty side. So I've mentioned this already. I just want to reiterate it. Time is not your friend. You cannot assume players are going to spend more than 5 minutes with your game, especially if they don't like it. Which means there's no like 5-minute long setup story where you talk about the Dark Lords and how they came and destroyed the people. No. Rick's laughing because he knows that he hates that. And progression is key. You need to make sure that players have a reason to keep coming back. They need to have some sense of investment in it. And that's either through social side of things, where, hey, my friend got a higher score, I want to come back and beat him, or that's through a real cool RPG leveling system, or just a sense, I'm on level 50 out of 400, I can't wait to get to level 55. Just some reason for them to bring them back. Yeah, that sounds really fun there. Because you're at an all-you-can-eat buffet, you're going to get a massive player base. And if you think that PC and console gamers are whiners, you have no idea. Because you're dealing with an enormous market where people just don't have time to even care about it. Like, if there's a feature that takes a little time to explain, or it's like something that you need to master at first, forget it, you're dead. Because your audience doesn't have time to care about that. Like, I'm sure you guys all know some games that take a little getting into, and then they become awesome, amazing, wonderful experiences. Some of my favorite games of all time are just like that. Those games don't exist on mobile. Unless you're probably going to slip a like $20 price tag on them, like XCOM, for instance. And the reason for that is because your audience doesn't care. If your game doesn't hook them that quickly, sure, whatever, move on. And this kind of ties in with everything else, is that it also needs to be a bit more lighthearted. And this isn't like a hard and fast rule. Like, I'm sure there's some dark games on there, but you're rarely going to see Spec Ops on mobile games. You're more to the point you're going to see fun, happy, lighthearted things, because that goes in with that same sort of quick, easy, digestible sort of marketing setup. It's not the greatest reality, but it is the reality situation. So you're not going to have time to basically make The Walking Dead on mobile. Yes, The Walking Dead is on mobile, I know. But making it like a game for you guys, you don't have the time and effort to invest and make those players want that. But there's lots of cool things that you get for your trouble. For instance, it's so cool out here. Guys, you can do anything on the mobile platform. I know Seth was up here telling you all that stuff a few weeks ago. I'm going to reiterate it. There's no hard and fast rules. Like all that shit I just told you, forget it. Maybe you guys can break all those rules, because like there's no perfect design. Think about the games on PC and console. There are some perfect designs. There is some stuff that you don't mess with, unless you really want to confuse people. How many of you guys want to play a first-person shooter without WASD controls on the PC, that is? Like, there are some things on these consoles that you can't touch just because, well, they're pretty much perfect. or you can just like iterate on them and tweak them. Here on mobile, there's nothing like that. You guys can do what the hell you want. It's great. And the thing is that, this is the awesomest thing here. You guys can do whatever the hell you want, and it can make an impact and have a difference, because you can do something incredible out of your garage. And I'll give you a great example of that. How many of you guys have heard of Nimblebit? All right, so cool. Nimblebit has made several very popular games like Pocket Frogs, Tiny Tower. They just came out with one called Pocket Trains. Nimblebit was founded by two twin brothers. Nimblebit currently has 4 employees. Some of these games were in the top 10 grossing on the App Store for weeks, months even. Every day a game is in the top 10 grossing, it's making about 6 figures a day. That's 4 people, 6 figures a day. Now, I see a lot more than 4 people here. That could be you guys. Like, that's just it. Like, you make a cool, addictive game like that, it goes out there and competes with things from EA, and it can win. Garage hits can work. Nimblebit is a key example of that. Zynga tried to copy them with Dream Heights and failed. And they're this huge 1,000-person corporation. That's crazy awesome. This is a really cool one. So I know you guys are learning about the spiral here. And out here in the mobile land, it's the king to everything. Like I told you about updates. Well, a lot of the games that come out are just prototypes. Are you guys familiar with Heyday and Clash of Clans? Probably. They're by a company called Supercell out in Finland. Supercell's model is pretty simple. They test out a bunch of concepts in the office. They put out a game with a couple months of development time on it, and it's basically a prototype. The game is not really complete in their eyes, but they want to see how well it catches. Clash of Clans is the same way. It caught on, so they kept adding on to it and adding on to it. And basically it just snowballed into this massive game you see today. Same thing happened with Heyday. That's what they keep trying to do. They had 2 games in the top grossing for how long? They're raking it in, guys. This thing here is the awesomest thing that ever was. Oh my god. My entire economy for Jewel Quest is in a Google Doc. They use a JSON script and they basically push out updates whenever I want to change the game. If I want to make one level 30 seconds longer, I can do that and they can just tweak it and it pushes server side. It doesn't require an update to the user's client. It means that I can change a Google Doc. The economy is entirely different. The levels are different. You can tweak, tune, and revise everything. Think how crazy that is. Like, look at a game like GTA 5. If a level is being failed by 95% of the users because it's 5 seconds too long or too short, so what? Let's wait for a system update. With this, I can change that. It'll be live to the users the next day. Done. Boom. That means that you can react very quickly. And you want to because of this sucker, the economy. This is where I can talk to you guys about some really fun stuff. So basically, monetization on mobile is a hodgepodge. You can come from very different areas. You can make it a freemium, which means the app is free, and well, you can buy hard currency or unlocks and the various things for real money. You can make it ad supported. You can choose this variant where an ad pops up after you play something. Whenever you look at that, they're getting like fractions of a cent. And you can also do things like sell an ad-free version of the game where they don't get the ads, but it costs you money, and maybe you get like enhanced recharge rate for your tokens and things like that. And of course, there's pay money for games. So using this sort of thing, you can try to like basically figure out how you can target your game. Like if you have a casual game with a large user base, freemium is actually a pretty good idea because freemium targets a small percentage of your users. Basically, like the players you're going to pay on mobile or social or whatever for a free game is nothing like it. How many of you guys actually pay for freemium games, free to play? Any of you? 1, 2. And how many of those games are on mobile? Is those also on mobile, or is those? Yeah, it's down to 1. All right, this is not uncommon. I don't pay for them either. Screw those guys. But it's a lot of people do. Now, if you're a casual game with a small user base, what do? You die, because you're a casual game with a small user base. What are you trying to do? If you're a hardcore game with a small user base, paid is a better idea. Things like ridiculous fishing, things like that, like those are paid games. They're hardcore games with a small user base, but that's okay because even 100,000 people paying $2.99, you're making bank. And if you're a hardcore game with a large user base, well, Jesus, you're set. Games like Kabam's game, Kingdoms of Camelot, that's more of a hardcore game. It's my mid-core, really. And that's got a large user base, and it's been in the top 10 charts forever, and they're making a fortune off that. I have a friend who works for Kabam. He's actually Door 3, and the perks they get are ridiculous. Danielle, you want to?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay, so actually, hang on a second here. When I said freemium, what does that really mean to you guys? It could be feature limited, where you have to unlock things with money, or it could be that, like Jetpack Joyride, for instance, you can get everything in the game. It's free. It just takes a while to grind through it. But what does that really mean to you? Let's think about your target audience, people who are paying for freemium games, and then think about yourselves. One of you raised their hand when I asked you to pay for mobile games on freemium, and thank you for doing so. Do you really know what they want? Like, you're designing a game for these people, and you aren't those people. I'm not those people. This means a really intricate understanding of economy and the way, the psychology of these users, because if you're not making a game for yourself. And I mean, that's actually a good thing, because I'm sure Rick and Ron have mentioned it. If you make a game for yourself, you're probably making a fan wank extravaganza, and it's not making it that good. But this is a real important consideration, because it might mean that, hey, you don't like platformers, and I made a platformer. But if you hate freemium games, and you're making a freemium game, that's tough, isn't it? I don't monetize in these games, but I'm making the game for people who do. And every day, I sit down, and I do this thing, and I implement things that I think will make money. And the little voice in the back of my head says, why are they paying you to do this? So keep this in mind. You're not making an economy for yourself, even if you're making a game for yourself. So how the heck do you know if that even works? Let's talk about data. So you need someone to tell you that data is awesome, and then you need to listen to them. Oh my God, that's so important. You have no idea how awesome data is. It's amazing. Like I know Seth was up here saying, I can look at how many people use this power up to beat this level. He's right. You can, and it's mind-blowingly cool. And so there's a lot of key things to watch for in just a general sense. So this is kind of like when your boss, or you for instance, wants to know if your game is a good game, being successful, they're looking at things like retention. Like for instance, 40-20-10 is a general rule for a well-performing game. And that means that day 1, day 7, and day 30 retention. And that's 40%, 20%, and 10%. This is why these games are basically measures of scale. That means after day 1, 40% of the players who were playing the game, this is for a good game, are left. That means 60% of the players who picked up your game and started playing it, whoop, gone. By day 30, 10% is considered good. Good, guys. 9/10 of your user base gone, and that's good. Most games don't even have that. Most games are just gone by then. ARPDAU is average return per daily active user. And another good, this is again more of a freemium setup, but it's useful to think of for just games in general. It's 15 cents. So that's a good number. And if you think about it, that's actually making a lot of money. If your user base is, say, 150,000 users, and consider Candy Crush is like 5 million a day users, that translates into a lot of bank. But don't think I just me talking about it. Let me actually show you some awesome magic when it comes to that sort of thing. Run.
Alt-tab.
I am alt-tabbing. But I'm going to escape and just come back to that.
There it is, Jewel Quest.
Yeah. Guys, this is Jewel Quest. Jewel Quest is currently live in New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, because we're testing it, and we're probably going to launch it in about a week or so. And this live period is basically a soft launch. And we launched it in those countries because we get a few thousand users, and that's enough to really improve the economy. And to do that, we use something called Mixpanel. This is a data analysis platform. You can use other ones like Tableau and various other things. I'm sure you can Google like a dozen more right now. And this is awesome. I'm not sure how well this is coming across online, but you guys pay for your seats, so I think it's a cool experience. For instance, let me show you retention. I can see recurring, people who did anything came back and did it again. This is something we're very happy about because these are retention numbers. I ignore these because these aren't complete, but look at our day 1s. 65%? Holy crap, that's awesome! Go to day 7s, 47%, that's what you want a day 1 to be. This is why we're really excited about Jewel Quest, is because we have these awesome numbers to back it out. But again, it's from a small pool of people. Like you can see right there, like 2,000, 1,500 or so. Not a whole lot of people playing it, but it's enough to give us an idea of how things are going to go. So I'm going to show you a few other cool little basic items here. I can show you funnels, for instance, and these funnels are preset up things that the game looks for and runs people through. Like I can see how many people complete the second island of the game, and for the day range of September 4th through October 4th, 47% of the players completed it. If I push this back a little bit, it'll go up because the data from the last few days isn't compiled to complete Mixpanel. And so that tells me that the second set of levels, really when the game starts going, half of our users beat those levels. Segmentation is where you get into the crazy stuff that Seth was talking about. Right now, this little one I brought up here, this bookmark, is level 405, Island 4, level 5. When players win, what power-ups do they have active? Most players, 80% of the ones who win, have no power-ups active. And then you can see the other ones available here. I'll show you one more quick example. Let's go with, we had a hacker in Canada, so we took his numbers out. That's another thing to keep in mind. You get real numbers from Apple. Things like Mixpanel sometimes get skewed by someone who has a jailbroken phone and is basically cheating out all the money. Let's go with, how about just level results? Okay, so this tells me how many players are winning the level out of total plays. So this isn't a single user, this is number of plays they go through. So level 304, they lost 75% of the time and then won 23% of the time. So that means that basically they played the level about 4 times on average before they beat it. And I can use that to tweak between the levels and say, basically have a level curve. Play Candy Crush Saga sometime and keep track of your wins and losses. What you're going to see is a little roller coaster where you beat a level with 1 win or it took you 1 time to beat it. Then maybe you lost once. Then you're going to lose like 5 times. Then you're going to go back into 1. If you guys have ever had a super hard level on Candy Crush where you spend like 10 or 20 tries, guarantee you, the next level you'll beat instantly. And that's because they want you to feel like, I beat it, I'm on a roll, I'm slowing down again. They don't want you to feel like an idiot, like, oh god, I suck at this game, forget it. They want to hook you in on that roller coaster. That's very similar to what Jules Quest does too. So I can use this data, and again, in real time, edit the Google Doc file. Next day, they'll have changes to make the level easier or harder, depending. Tell me that's not magic. Okay, so there is no perfect approach, no perfect game out there. Although Candy Crush might beg to differ. Jesus. Okay, if you are a super casual game, and this is for you guys just to keep in mind when you're actually making these things, you want it to be, generally speaking, free, because you have a massive user base, because it's super casual, and then support with ads and make it wireless. Hell, can you think of an example of this sort of game? Anyone, don't be shy. 5, 4, 3.
Jetpack Joyride.
Close, but no, that is not a super casual game. And it's also, I don't believe, ad supported. But a good example of this one would be Draw Something. And this one's also viral as hell. Oh my god, it has to be viral because you need a friend to play with. And this one did peter out pretty fast, but it was a good example of one for the time being. What is a casual game? In this case, viral, of course, but in-game purchases and more free, but it's not really as much ad support. And think of an example of this one.
Puzzles and Dragons?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I was going to go with Clash of Clans, but yeah, Puzzles and Dragons is a fine example of that one as well. All right, and then a hardcore game. In this case, you get paid. You can actually add in-game purchases. I think like Infinity Blade has like a store you can buy more gold for. But in this case, you really run the risk of alienating your user base if you make anything really important stuff behind a paywall. And yeah, viral's nice. Anyone give an example? I used it. All right, so let's talk about virality a little more. And I caution you with this one because, well, this is probably getting into territory you guys hate. Virality. Guys, let's be adults on this one. There's, there's all this crap, and I'm sure every one of these words, or at least every other word, is basically soaking your heart with anger. And virality is in there too. And you want lots of virality because you can pick that thing up there. Let go of that stuff, guys. It's a business, it's an industry, just like PC and console. The reason DLC is not going anywhere, and it's around there too. There's good DLC and bad DLC. There's bad games with pay to win and virality and things like that, and there's good ones too. Dota 2 is a great game. It's free to play. It's not pay to win though. There's plenty of games out there that are free to play, that are on mobile, which are decent, good efforts. I'm hoping Jules Quest to be one of them. You guys can make these games and make them good. There's a dark side to everything. Mobile's no exception. It's just a lot more obvious thanks to efforts of companies like Zynga. So I'm going to bring up virality, and of your 3 marketing options, greatness is free, but so is virality. Virality is so important because it's free. The goal is to get all those users to this tipping point where you can just basically explode, and even if every 5th user tells one of their friends, it gets huge. And it's incredibly important because this ties back to something I mentioned way earlier in the presentation, and that is hideous, hideous cost per install. This is, again, something that your higher-ups are going to worry about more than you, but it'll come back down on you. And the reason for this is because every single game has a cost per install, a little CPI. And that is getting huge. Companies like Zynga and Gree are pouring tons of money into advertisers to basically do burst marketing and force users to install. Like it gets in front of them, and they're paying for that. And that burst marketing drives the cost up to $1.50, $2 per user. Think about that. If you are paying $2 for a user to come to your game, you have to make at least $2 or more on a user. Virality is free. A viral game, something that draws users in free through that system, like Draw Something did, that overcomes your CPI. This is incredibly important. It sucks. Thanks for thinking great. Used to be like 40 cents. And they just, again, poured a boatload of money in. CrowdStar, the guys I used to work for, what they did is they took all the profits from their games and poured it right back into marketing. Everything. And that's millions of dollars just flowing right back into marketing. And you have to do that to just keep your user base churning because of that ridiculous retention rate. 40-20-10 is good, guys. And the reason I bring this up, and this whenever this is alluded to, is that this isn't some crazy stuff far off in the future. This is something you can be working on right this second, right now. And it's huge. It's ridiculously huge. Like portables, like DS and everything, it's making 4 times more money than that. I think Google Play alone makes more money than all the portable consoles put together. And it's also going places. So this is a really tiny chart, and you probably can't see it all online. But the gist of this one is that in a few years, mobile and tablets, like that's going to be huge. And it's one of the ones with like the massive increases. And everything else is either going to keep going steady, maybe increase a little bit, or even go down in cases like handhelds. So even if you guys aren't that interested in mobile, it might be the career option available to you for a while. It's going to be freaking gigantic. 30% of the global game market. And look at the cost versus the potential thing. Again, this is a garage hit thing. It's hit driven, yeah, but it's something you can make in your garage. So everyone's going to mobile. Everyone's looking at it. Like EA is investing in it. Look at Sid Meier and Firaxis Studios. XCOM is now a mobile game. He has a free-to-play game on there. I think it's a tactical flight one, like World War I dogfighting. There's no reason you can't do that and do it right now. There's so many cool possibilities, guys. Let me go through some recommendations for you if you want to start doing this now. So I suggest making the app free, like Pitch Jumper was, and I suggest they put in one currency, like say, Jetpack Joyride has coins, and let them get it through all those various things. I mean, they could pay hard cash, but let them basically make this a freemium game where it's freemium based on effort and time. You can unlock everything if you put enough effort and time in it. And then make syncs where we have power-ups that you can take into the level. So look at Candy Crush. So you can take little candy hammers and things into the level, make those currency syncs and soft currency ones, or give them permanent upgrades. Like again, Candy Crush does that. Plenty of other games do, where you get 5 extra moves per level. Again, make that a sync for your soft currency. By the way, soft currency is a currency you can earn on a regular basis in a game. Hard currency is one you can earn very rarely, and through quests like the diamonds. That's usually paid for. I'm suggesting making a soft currency only game. And then of course you can also make a content expansion for your sync. The content expansion could be something like that. If you play Warhammer Quest, that's an iPad game, they had a content expansion for that one where you can unlock the Ratkin and a whole bunch of the Skaven and a whole bunch of other adventures. And that was hard cash for a paid game. And people were fine with that because it was a big expansion of the game. And then you can also throw in, this is something Jewel Quest does, real money transactions for last chance. So at the end of Candy Crush levels, and I keep saying Candy Crush because it's market leader. If you haven't played it, just try it out. You'll be impressed how quickly it sucks you in and kind of replicates a lot of what I've been saying in game form. Bites in this package. And this one means that at the end of a level, whatever your guys' level has, you can offer to give them another life or continue, sell them extra moves, extra time for real money. And players are kind of used to this one right now. It might not sit well with you, but most of your player base is kind of just, whatever. They'll just skip it if they don't want to do it. And then, of course, keep pumping out really new things. And if you can, this is a little bit of the viral thing. Try using Facebook's API and tie in progress and performance there. Game Center, whatever. Facebook is where it's at. So here are some rules for you guys to go through. You don't have any money. You want money, but you don't have any, so don't worry about spending that. That's why virality can save your asses. And there are 4 player resources in mind. The first 3, everybody knows these. Player burns time on the game, player burns money in the game, player burns friends in the game, like draw something, but player also burns goodwill on the game. This is why Dream Heights from Zynga flopped. Zynga has no goodwill. They could have. They could. They're just evil and they don't want it, I guess. But think about it, there are gigantic studios out there with tons of goodwill. Look at Valve. It's billions of dollars now, and everybody loves them because they have goodwill. And you guys have a great story because you're students, so you could have goodwill pretty easily. The goodwill is pretty easy to come by if you're not evil and heartless. That's also why you want to make games lighthearted. Like that calls back to that. You want to encourage player goodwill. You want them to like you. That translates into also more 5-star reviews in the App Store. I do a class on like reviews and stuff, but the gist of that one is Apple's rankings are based in part on their reviews. They want more high-rated games up there because they want more people to download games on their platform. You want good reviews. So even if your target audience doesn't include some 40-year-old mom, she's going to play your game and she might hate it. And she might write a 1-star review and that might drop some retention numbers there. That might mean like another 50 people don't see your game because Apple ranked it lower because it had a low review. Doesn't that suck? They should work on player goodwill. So yeah, this is why you guys are great. You're a little guy. When I say make things fast, make the player get into it, it doesn't need to be simplistic. So don't make it just like a stupid little thing. Like make it deep, not broad. Don't have like a whole bunch of crazy stuff in there, but make it so your mechanics draw you in quickly and then become more and more interesting as the game goes on. Candy Crush again does this very well. Give them, again, this is calling back again, because I really want to hammer on this stuff. Give them a return on their investment. Give them a sense of ROI. You want, if you guys are working for a company, your bosses want ROI. Well, you're also working for your players, and they want an ROI. And you don't need to make it a multiplayer battle game, not at all. But some sense of making it a living game is really important. Your game needs to, like, how many guys love a game, but it feels dead to you because no one plays it? Like, that happens a lot on mobile. Games just kind of feel like they die out. If you keep releasing updates and keep making it interesting, players can even come back a lot later because they just want to see all the cool stuff that went into it later on. That just ties right into that. It needs to feel alive. So once you go into post-launch, there's always tons of new stuff to do. You can throw levels, modes, difficulties, all sorts of cool stuff. But I know you. I know you all as one of you. I know exactly where you're thinking. And you're going to make a game which is about 500%, maybe 5,000% bigger than whatever you eventually do release. So cut, slice it up, strangle all those little ideas, those cute ideas that you had, and kill them because you don't have enough time to get them in there. You really don't. And I know you guys are smiling and like, yeah, that's funny. But you're going to live it in a few months. And you're not going to believe me. You'll listen to me. You're like, oh, that's true. You're not going to believe Rick or Ron when they tell you that. You're like, oh, we can do this idea, and this idea will work. No, your game's going to be completely different from what you pitched. Trust me. Opera Slinger was completely different from what I pitched. Like, they are always different. The Dual Quest is different from what I pitched, and I think Rick showed you guys the design docs. I played, like, when it comes out, I'll send out a link. You can play it and see how different it is from those initial designs. And that's an established franchise, an established budget and everything, the professional studio and all that stuff. They're always different from what we initially pitched as. So just cut all those ideas and then put them into the backlog in the future content pile. Those broken dreams don't need to die and be swept away. Just like, put them in a nice box on the shelf and say, I'll get to you later. That's the easy part. Like, what was it? 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration? It's true. It's true for all games. It's true for mobile as well. It's always just implementing them. So, that concludes the what mobile can do for you part of the lecture. Now, what did I miss? What didn't I cover? What you guys left confused upon? Give me questions. I think I saw your hand first.
So you showed that chart. Is there somewhere where we can look at that chart better? The one with all of the different breakdowns of percentages of people playing and stuff like that.
The one from
That
That
one.
Yeah, I've done that one online. Yeah, I can send out a link or something. It's the Global Games Market Report is in 2013.
Newzoo.com.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll get it on their site, but
Okay.
Could you just give us the whole PowerPoint?
oh yeah, that works too.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll send it over to Ron to pass out to you guys. Oh, yeah.
Is there like a specific engine that you guys prefer to use for mobile, or is it in-house?
Oh, it's never really in-house. No. Cocos 2D is pretty popular. Unity is very popular. You can basically, there's tons of options out there. Ricochet made Ignite, was that? Impact, and that looks awesome too. Basically, whatever works is generally the order of the day, but no one really builds their engines anymore.
That metrics gathering tool you showed us.
Yeah, Mixpanel.
That's a pay per thing?
It is paid, and it's a scaling paid thing. So if you have a small game with a small user base, it's not going to cost so much. It's more paid. It's paid based on the number of variables you're tracking and the number of users like you're going through.
Do you have any idea what the cost is? Just for
No, not the ballpark. No, not even that for you guys. Check it out. Go into the thing. But
zeros per month it is?
definitely at least 4, probably around 5 for us.
Or in a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was it called?
That was Mixpanel. Other ones include Tableau. Just look for like, data metrics, data gathering, data analytics, something like Mixpanel will probably find you stuff. Any other questions? Ron?
Can you talk more about what you mean by goodwill in the sense of how you can build it and how you can lose it?
Yeah, sure. So when I said like you guys have a fantastic story, I'm talking a lot in this case about the hardcore user, the one who's going to be the tipping point user, the one who's going to tell all his friends about it, who may never monetize in your app, but who you want to court, even though he's never going to monetize. He's going to write the 5-star reviews, he's going to tell all his friends, he's the important person, he's the one who's going to bash you on the forums or praise you on the forums. So I say goodwill, you're really courting you guys. And think about the things that kind of piss you off about games, like if something, for instance, is a free-to-play game and they lock something behind a paywall, like in Candy Crush, where you get to a little like ticket thing and you have to like get friends to help you out or pass that. That's the sort of thing that's going to annoy you guys, but not really so much casual users because they're used to it. So things that make you feel like the game developer is asking more of you than you're willing to give them, that induces negative goodwill. And it's a really tricky commodity, and it's really hard to build it back up once you've lost it. Look at EA. They did a Humble Bundle a few weeks ago. Probably one of the best ones that the Humble Bundle ever did. Amazing deal for games. And a lot of players are like, oh, this is kind of great for EA. And a lot of other ones are like, yeah, thanks guys, try to work back up the goodwill you lost. Like, you get the kind of sarcastic, like, whatever their intentions are, whatever, like, that was, I think, like, what, you paid $4 for $70 worth of games, maybe more, and people still, they're like, jerks, because of how much goodwill they lost with all the other crap they did. So, but it's easy for you guys to get it. Like, goodwill, like, most people will give you the benefit of the doubt, but as soon as you lose that, you're screwed. So, getting goodwill is just a matter of having a fun, enjoyable, playable experience that basically makes you feel like you had good value for your time. You got a good ROI. And then when they look at you in your company and like the updates, it's everything. It's the messages you send to them. Like when you ask for a Facebook login, say, we promise never to share your information. Don't make a Facebook login required to play the game. Otherwise, people will savage you in the reviews page. It's things like that, where you want to give them the option to indulge in the things that give you money, but don't shove it in their faces and make them do it. Otherwise, they'll just say, screw you, I have 500 other games I can play. Remember, you're dealing with people at an all-you-can-eat buffet. And if they don't like your game, even if your game takes a little while to get into and enjoy, and it's really cool, they're just going to go for the plate of mashed potatoes, and they're not going to care what you did. So it's all tied in with that whole marketplace of tons of options, tons of fickle players, and a very tricky slope to navigate in terms of goodwill and economy.
Another way to say this, by the way, is like brand recognition too. So like,
True.
Dragon Story, my wife started playing that, and it's Team Lava is the name of it.
Yep.
And she decided she liked it, and then she just started searching for what else does Team Lava make. And then she went and downloaded everything else that Team Lava makes, because it's all free.
That's actually good. I completely didn't mention that. Yeah. Cross promos. So that's not as relevant for you guys, but it's majorly relevant in industry. Team Lava, for instance, does cross promos like crazy. If your game is popular, you can actually play some Team Lava. Team Lava is Stormate, incidentally, they're the same kind of studio. Play those games. There's usually in every game there's a little emblem in the upper right. You tap that, it drops in a full list of all the games they made. Sometimes you even get bonuses in those games for downloading them. And they'll even, I think, put quests in their games to go download other games of theirs. That's cross promotion, and that's again free. No cost per install for that. No CPI negative hit. So that's really cool. And I'll give you just a second, one more thing to add to that. With that setup, play Team Lava games and play Stormate games, and try and see if you can guess which every single one of them is copied off of. Yeah. Because it's a valid market strategy. They have very high production values. It's very slick looking. They just released I think Candy Blast or something, which is Candy Crush. The Dragon Story is the Dragon Saga. No wait. What's the first one that came out? Dragonvale. That's it. Yeah, that is Dragonvale. And they're shameless about it, but it can work because again, this is the Wild West, guys. You can do anything out here, and a valid market strategy is copying the leader. Zynga did it for ages, but they kind of suck at it because they have no goodwill. Dream Heights was a direct copy of Tiny Tower from Nimblebit, and it failed in part because people hate them.
Team Model actually copies themselves, right? So Restaurant Story, Dragon Story, Nightclub, City Story, Bakery Story, and it's the same freaking game mechanic. It's you can tell. It's like they just threw a different skin on. You did it like 8 times.
And the reason for that is that because they have these metrics saying this stuff works,
Right.
and then when the retention numbers drop off, they don't want to just lose that audience, but the audience is getting bored with that game, so they put another one that's similar to it to bring them back in. It's a really odd consequence of the nature of the marketplace. All right, your turn finally.
Oh, yeah, sure. No, I just had a question sort of on that topic. Once we do have a game, ready to launch, as sort of students or, venture track companies with little money, do you have any advice for us on good sort of strategies just to get the word out that our game exists, that it can be noticed in the marketplace?
Review sites are actually not a bad way to go. And I'm sure you guys know tons of game review sites, things like Touch Arcade and all sorts of other playable sites you can post your games on and try and get word out there, like do it and ask me anything on Reddit. Like things like that will try to just get the word out. There's no surefire way. That's why I'm talking about virality and things like that. Maybe your game will catch on, maybe it'll like shoot to the top page because someone made a funny meme out of your game, but don't rely on that thing. Basically, your advertising campaign is going to be next to nothing because you have no money for it. Therefore, everything has to come from your game. Draw Something was a Hail Mary pass from OMG Pop. It was like the 30th game they made or something, and it hooked them. It caught on, even though it was just Pictionary. And look at what happened to those guys. They got bought up by Zynga for, what, $250 million? They're set. They're set for life. Because one game just caught on. It had a nice viral mechanic. It was fun. And Zynga keeps popping up in these stories. They didn't do so well for Zynga, did it? So you have to basically make your game what sells your game. That's why I keep mentioning virality.
Something else to mention there too. I read a really interesting article by some of the suits at Steam, and they were talking about the take-up curve for some of these games, and they said it's wildly different from a typical store-bought game, especially the freemium types of games. They said that normally you can look at the pickup curve on these things, and if it doesn't do anything in the first month on something that you buy off the shelves, it's pretty much dead. But they said some of these games could go 18, 20 months, and they're completely flat. And then they get the right review in the right forum, and they hit that inflection point and they go crazy.
That's right. That's the thing point. Like the thing where it just takes off. Yeah, that's actually something else to mention. Let's say that you guys released a game on PC, and you had middling sales for about 3 months. Barring a nice Steam sale or something, your game's kind of dead. Like Rick was saying, on mobile, that's completely different. You could really have something that takes off in 8 to 12 months. Candy Crush Saga came out in, I think, the fall on Facebook in the fall of like 2010, I think, and it really took off when it hit basically critical mass somewhere around middle of 2011, and then went on mobile and everything, and now it's huge. But that took some time. Like that came out almost 3 years ago, not 2 years ago. 2 years for a PC or mobile game? Sorry, PC or console game? That means it's dead. It can't come back. Look at these games. They have this weird, like, zombie existence. Like, they can keep coming back from the dead. And like, that's what updates will do, too. You push an update to your game that has, like, another set of levels, it's like you re-release the game. It brings in a whole new bunch of people, maybe like, put an advertising campaign on board with it as well, and it just comes back. It's kind of creepy. Any other questions? Anyone else? Go Ron first.
So you mentioned the idea of using a soft currency and only one.
Yeah.
Can you talk through some of the pros and cons?
Oh, sure, yeah. When he says only one, I'm sure you guys have played games with multiple currencies. To pick on Zynga some more because I like it. When I was at CrowdStar, I was doing competitive analyses, and they gave me $3,000 to spend on a Zynga game. And the goal is to basically see like whale behavior, like how they treat whales. And so this game was a treehouse kind of sim. And I remember I dropped $500 and I got about 10 minutes of gameplay out of it. And the reason for that is because they have all sorts of currencies going in. They had like there's coins and wood and food and like diamonds or whatever. And everything then costs different things to do different stuff. And so these sinks just kind of rip money out of you. The more currencies in the game, the more your hardcore users are probably going to hate it. It's just kind of like a given. A single currency game is a little more streamlined, a little more straightforward. It doesn't have the same psychological impact as some of these other games because there's a nice sunk cost fallacy that goes into those things. That's why Xbox Live had points for so long. If I sell you a pack of diamonds for 40, you get 40 diamonds in a pack, and getting 3 extra lives at the end of the level costs you 25 diamonds, which it probably will. You'll have 15 diamonds left over, and the next pack will cost you 20 diamonds. Just a few more diamonds. Why not? Like, it makes you feel like you have an investment that stays on the board in those games. So that I've got 15 diamonds still in that game. I need to keep playing it, and because I spent that money. It's some cost fallacy over and over again. Not so much with a single currency. There, if I'm just saying do a soft currency, I'm saying make it coins that you can earn through gameplay. Like they get 250 coins per level plus some bonus stuff. If they did really well, maybe they got up to 350 or so. And that stuff goes into power-ups and various permanent purchases. And that stuff you just grind. You're grinding a hard currency, a soft currency. With hard currencies, it's stuff you rarely get. Like you might get like 5 diamonds for a quest, whereas like something that costs diamonds costs 100 diamonds. And the goal there is again just try to keep you having a bank balance in that game, to keep you coming back to the game, to keep you spending more. Some games even have like premium tracks. If you ever play Paradise Cove from Pocket Gems, they basically got a premium quest track in the game, where a very fancy-looking man in a suit like comes gives you a quest and says, "Hey, I'd like to build a mansion for your mayoral house, and it costs diamonds to build this mansion, which is a hard currency you can only get by paying." And once you do that, I did a competitive analysis in this game too. Once you do that, you have another quest from him saying, "All right, now build a bakery. This also costs diamonds." Everything he gives you costs diamonds. The only way you can do his quest is to spend money in the game. But those things give you really cool stuff. The goal for a player is like, if you spend money in the game, they should feel like they really got something out of it. They should feel like a golden god. They shouldn't. It just should not skip them to the end of the game. Oh God, no! Don't skip content. But make it feel like they're getting through the content and make them feel awesome for doing it. Make like that was a great purchase. I was very smart for doing this. Like make them. That's the goal of hard currency purchases. Soft currency should feel like more like I put in my time and effort, I invested it wisely, and I got good stuff out of it. These are the players who, when they look at all the things to buy, the permanent upgrades, they're the ones who probably will buy the 15% more gold earned. Even though that costs 10,000 gold and they could have bought 3 other upgrades before that one, they still buy that one first because they know they're in it for the long haul, and this will make their total experience of the game shorter overall. They're the ones who are like working in the fields. Does that answer your question? Mm-hmm. Cool. Rick, I think you have one next.
I have 2 questions.
Oh, bring it on.
First one is kind of related to that soft currency type of stuff. So, interesting, you take an example of games like Dragonville or Dragon Story or something like that, and you can use the gold bars or whatever the hard currency is that you could pay for, or you can earn that currency like really, really slowly, like a special currency. And you look at like how much of that purchasable currency you have to spend to get something. And it almost seems like they're trying to disincentivize you from buying it. Like in Dragon Story, it's like 3,000 gold bars to get this dragon. If you look up the cost of 3,000 gold bars, it's like $40. It's like, why would anybody pay $40 to get one dragon in Dragon Story? It's nonsense. I've noticed that a lot about these games that have these hard currencies, is that they make the cost per thing that you could buy with the hard currency so prohibitively expensive. I can't understand why anybody would be insane enough to buy the currency. Can you speak to that?
I can, actually. And Dragon Story and Dragonville are a great example of that. Dragonville, for the longest time, their ultimate dragon was the Rainbow Dragon. And buying this thing would be like $70. But you can breed it, and you can get it with a lot of time and effort in the game. It's random chance, and it's many, many days of effort, but you can get it. I got it. I didn't spend a cent. And I got it because it's a challenge. So, the board, right? So, you're the Sun of the Moon Dragon, all those too? Yeah, of course. All right, so you take those high-level goals, those ridiculous things that seem completely unattainable. They are for 2 people. They're for the grinders like me and Rick, who like I want to go into it. They're completionists. They want to get it. They're the ones who hear like I had a friend at Crowdstar's playing the game, and he got the Rainbow Dragon. He's like, I want the Rainbow Dragon. Look at his awesome dragon. I want that. Like that's some virality right there, actually. And I ground for it. And I like look at the guides, and I finally got it. And I was like, yes, got it. That's one type of person. Someone who's in it to win it there. The other type of person is the whale, the mythical whale. And this is like the tiniest little fraction of your player base, and it can account for a massive portion of your revenues because they're the ones who look at the $70 cost and like, whatever, ching, done. They're out there. They're people who spend fortunes. Even on the soft launch for Jewel Quest, we have a $99 coin pack in there. You can buy the soft currency in the game. if you want to. Like, if you want to just skip the grind, if you don't want to play the levels to get the coins get, like, it's very similar to what I was saying, like, buy power-ups, buy relics, that sort of thing, permanent upgrades, for soft currency. But you can buy the packs to skip that if you really want to. Even in the soft launch, we had someone who bought the $99 coin pack, tens of thousands of coins. And they did that because they don't care. They've got thousands of dollars of disposable income, or their parents' credit card or something, but they don't care. I'm sure there's no one in here who is that type of person. I'm not that type of person. That gets back to what I was saying. Who are you really building the game for? Who are you designing for? Zynga is designing the game for the whales. I'd like to design the game for everyone with the goal of giving outlets for the whales and the paying users to skip content or accelerate things, but to make the game fun for us, for me, for you guys. That, like, Jetpack Joyride does that. A lot of Half-Brick Studio games do that really well, and Jewel Quest does that too. It's the goal is to build player goodwill, make it a fun experience for everyone, and potentially convert users into either paying users or users who recruit their moms and other possible paying users. Ron, you have?
Yeah, I see that's for another question, which is that it feels like a lot of these games have a problem in the sense that the pricing is consistent for both the early player and the late game player.
Oh, excellent.
Because if you jump into a game and there's 100 diamonds for a hero, and on my first day I look at that and a diamond is $1, I'm going, how in the world would I ever spend $100 on a hero? But if I play that game, if I get into that game and I play it for 3 months, I get a diamond a day for free. I earn a diamond when I beat a cool
The diamond tree that gives you 3 diamonds when you're
right, now all of a sudden I have 90 diamonds quite easily. So now it costs me $10 for that warrior. And so well, I could easily pay that, or I could easily make that. So how do you address the issue that consistent pricing means 2 different things to a player who's into the game and not?
That's an excellent question. There are a couple ways around that. First of all, there's scaling. In Jewel Quest, the coin packs change what you get for your money based on the island you've unlocked, because you get more coins as you go through the game. So by the time you're on like Island 5, you spend $99, you get a whole lot more coins than you get if you spend on Island 1, because we don't want that sort of thing to decay for users. We want users at any point in the game to feel like they got their money's worth. The upshot of that is that yes, if you wait till the end of the game to buy something, you will get more coins for your value, but then the coins are also worthless, because another thing you can do is ratchet up the costs later in the game. So buying a boost for a level in Jewel Quest costs more on level 9 than like on Island 9 than Island 2. So that hero that was worth 100 diamonds might have been awesome for you back in the beginning of the game, but maybe just average near the end game.
Okay, the second one made sense to me, but the first one didn't make sense to me. You just implied that I make more money as I play the game, but in most cases, you don't need to give me more money as I make the game, because I'm making it naturally and I'm into the game, right?
Right. But so here's the thing: is that I think I can answer this one. So you get more money as you go through the game, just making it more naturally. You ratchet up the costs, and you also ratchet up what you get for your money. There are anyone play Cookie Clicker? Anyone play that one? Yeah, that's fun, isn't it? Cookie Clicker is a great example of this, where at the end of the game you're making 1 cookie per click, and you're making maybe 30 cookies per second. As you play the game, you're up to like 4 trillion cookies per second, and your hair is falling out, and you're a madman clicking the cookie. The thing is that the cost keeps scaling with you as you're going through. You might be able to buy the cookie time machine to bring cookies from the past to the present for 500,000 extra cookies per second, and I've done that, and God, I'm playing that game. But the thing is that to get to that point, like I need to spend time and grind for it. Like that time machine would have been a massive help at the beginning of the game. It would have like basically trivialized it at the start of the game. But the point I'm at in the game, it's a small incremental upgrade. It basically, and the reason why it works is because it unlocks it at different points. So if you have that awesome 100 diamond hero and he's completely like overpowered at the start of the game, maybe you don't unlock him at the start of the game. Maybe you don't even split the user know he's there. You unlock him later in the game. So that sort of principle can carry through the whole game, where if you spend that $100 purchase equivalent, it's worth it when you get to it. And later in the game, you have another $100 purchase that's worth it at that point, and you can still buy that original hero, but you don't really want him at that point because there's more stuff. Like I don't want, or you can scale his costs. Like I don't want a farm in Cookie Clicker, I want another time machine. But I can scale the cost and the worth of those things to make a farm more attractive. Or I can tie things, like I get an achievement to buy 100 farms in Cookie Clicker. And so that's why we'll get 100 farms, is to get that achievement. Like there's lots of cool psychological tricks you can do to make those things worthwhile, even when they shouldn't be. That answers your question?
Yes.
Cool. Any question up there? And over here?
Yeah, the last thing you said.
Yeah.
To me, sort of answered what I was going to say, because it seems like that there's a real risk that if you tarnish goodwill, if someone drops $100 in their game and it doesn't take them long, and they love it, so it doesn't take them very long to get to a point where suddenly that $100 is seemingly a waste.
Yeah, and
So
that,
if you have with the achievements and it mattering that you accrue these,
Yeah.
I guess.
there are premium, like for instance, the premium track. I might have dropped $100, and like the mansion that I got for the first quest from Mr. Fancy Pants, maybe that's not really worth a lot now, but I still have that mansion. And my friend doesn't have that mansion because he didn't drop $100 in the game to get onto that awesome track in the first place. So it's that it's like little like what Napoleon say, a soldier will throw his life away for a piece of colored string. It's true. A player will throw their wallet away for a piece of colored string. That's the whole point of all these achievements and things like that. Look at World of Warcraft. How many of you guys ground at Reputation to Exalted or something like that? Like there's all these things you can do, and Rick was one of them. All these things you can do, and like that's how many hours of effort, how much basically like remember like the currencies, the 4 things. There was time, money, goodwill, and friends. That time is still a currency that the player is putting in. So they might have thrown away thousands of hours, and that like the dragon lane they might have got is worthless, or that title they might have got they never even use anymore, but they have it. Or it's a feat of strength now. No one can never get it. Like you can retire these things. Like there's all this cool stuff you can do to make it worthwhile when it is actually worth less. Anyone else? Anything else?
Let's take one last question.
No. Okay. Yeah.
So I think for a lot of us, like we got into games because it's something we enjoy, like we did when we were kids or whatever. Like granted, like not every game could be like The Last of Us or like Mario 64, but how do you balance something like because the free-to-play like monetization and all this other stuff, like it has the capacity to, like we were talking about goodwill, right? So it has a capacity to sour people.
Oh yeah.
And it can be very transparent the way they're trying to make money
Oh,
off
yeah.
you. So how do you balance that with your own like, I guess like artistic desire to create something that's meaningful?
That's a great question, and it's one you all have to probably answer at some point because most of you probably will go into mobile. It's the in thing. That's what jobs are helping us. I mean, I got into mobile. I didn't take mobile design stuff here, but I got into it because it's where the jobs are going. So you guys probably have to answer this question for yourselves. And the answer is pretty simple because all games, at the end of the day, are very like this. Like Rick will probably tell you, this is an industry of this. You are building art and your dreams for execs in suits who eat dreams. And these are this is an industry. It's a business. They have shareholders to answer to. Like these are guys who are doing this for money. They are packaging your dreams and your ideas and your creativity, and they're putting it on a store shelf and selling it. These are people who argue whether a box should be blue or red. Like these are the dream eaters, and you have to work with them no matter if you're in mobile. The free-to-play thing just kind of brings that out into the light and makes it obvious because you can look at it and say, like, I hate that thing. That is a bad thing that is destroying the industry. Well, if you said that about that, I bet you said that about DLC. I bet you're going to say that about advertising execs who want you to make the box red. Like, it's in all levels of it because you're in an industry. But guys, you are in also, like, this is the best field for you because garage hits are viable. Like the indie renaissance that's on the PC, well, that's the Kickstarter and things like that. That's great and all. But here is where it can happen for real without a cold Kickstarter campaign, without like a bunch of upswelling indie love. Like on this system, you guys, like everything's flat. You're equal. Yeah, you don't have the advertising dollars, but you have your dreams and your creativity, and you can put that up against the execs in the suits. The thing is that in order to win, at some point you have to kind of play by their rules. Like Pitch Jumper is, for instance, an awesome game. I don't think they'll make them a fortune because it wasn't designed to make a fortune, but it is an awesome game. It's great that you guys got that out there. But it also doesn't play by their rules. I don't think you guys are going to make tons of money off Pitch Jumper, but you didn't mean it to. It's a portfolio piece of something fun that you did. But if you want to make it money out there, to some extent you need to play by their rules. Ridiculous Fishing is a great example because it's made by Vlambeer. It's like costs I think $2.99. It's an awesome game to play. It's really fun. But it also had a copy that came out like a week later. And there are tons of copies. If you look for Jewel Quest, there is someone who took all of our art assets and made games like he's in China or something, and he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. We told him to stop, and he's not. So you can't really go after him. Apple won't do anything about it. This is the reality you're dealing with. It's a business, it's an industry that you'll have copycats, people who just copy your dreams and don't care about them. People who eat your dreams with the execs who don't care about them. And at the end of the day, like it doesn't matter what game you're making, what platform you're using, what economy you're using, and stuff. It matters about you and the dreams that you're trying to put into it. It's what you get out of it and what you put into it. So don't worry too much about the constraints because, as Rick always says, and Ron too, constraints breed creativity. These constraints are good things to have because they make your games games. So like the reason you guys enjoy these games and love these games is probably because somewhere along that line an exec said, I want a turn-based strategy game. Make me one. And Sid Meier stepped up and said, okay, yeah. I know he didn't. I think he made Civilization on his own. But the point is that these guys like do these things. Often FTB has to corporate overlords who don't care about their artistic validity of intent, and that's okay because again, this is a business. You guys are going to go to work for a paycheck. It's the end of the day. It's a job, but it's the awesomest damn job in the world. I love my job. This is great, guys, and this is what you're going into. You're going to a really fun industry where you can do a lot of cool stuff and work with people who are just as passionate as you are. But the key word there is you're going into industry. That's the bottom line.
Great. Well, let's give Matt a round. Very good point. That's what you might be interested in anyway. I never use it. Ron Buck's kid. Yeah.
Said he never used but he just
Thank you.